Hello everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a PC Engine CD game, and that happens to be Faucet Armor. I'm not 100% sure if that's how it's pronounced, but it looks like it's almost pronounced as Faust, as in the folklore tale, so that's what I'm calling it, Faucet Armor. And it was developed by AIM and published by Naxat Soft, and it was released in 1993, and it happens to be a side-scrolling action platformer. You know, it seems like I do a lot of these action platformer kind of games, so maybe next review I'll have to do a type of genre that I don't really cover too often. Well, anyways, we're doing this one right here for today, and first things first, let's talk about the story. So the character you play as, his name is Koroku, and she lives in a peaceful village where an evil demon monster ends up destroying the village and ends up kidnapping a bunch of people, and then a mysterious old man approaches her and gives her a bunch of like magical armor, weapons, and all that kind of good shit. And it's the plot of every single other game out there. Now, before we write it off as hopelessly generic, there is one thing that did caught my interest. And that happens to be the evil demon is known as Goatbone. So obviously, the name is just really fucking stupid. But the most interesting part about this, at least for me, and for anyone that has been around my channel long enough, is that in one of many of my favorite games, Kagero Deception 2, there is a character named Goatbone in there. So I guess before he became a pansy enemy that just runs away from you every time, instead, in this game, he's the final boss. Wow, just mind-blowing. But of course, knowing me, I just had to make a Deception reference, but anyways, now let's get to the gameplay. So you have a spear weapon which allows you to hit enemies from a decent distance. You can even hit in multiple directions. And if you hold up an attack when you're in the air, you can actually shoot out projectiles. And there are 3 different projectile power-ups that you can get. And you get these power-ups by hitting fairies that fly around. But one interesting mechanic that this game has is that even though you are using a spear, you can also use it as a grappling hook. So that's 2 games in a row where I've taken a look at a game that's a side-scrolling action platformer that also has a grappling hook feature. And by the way, that was totally a coincidence. But there is one thing about this game that does remind me of Ghosts and Goblins. And believe it or not, it's not the difficulty. So when you get hit in this game, you lose your armor, and then after you lose your underwear, you die. So I guess you can say it's almost like Ghosts and Goblins Waifu Edition, or aka G-strings and undergarments. But essentially, yes, you get hit twice and you die. Now going back to Ghosts and Goblins for a sec, this game may be pretty challenging, but it's definitely not nearly as brutally difficult as Ghosts and Goblins, thankfully. So you still get the unlimited continues like that game does. There's no time limit in this game. And the fairies that do appear will always carry the same item, it's never randomized. So at least you never have to worry about getting the worst item imaginable at the worst time ever. But even though this game may seem a lot more fair, it still has its way of being pretty challenging, but not nearly as much. But I'd say it's a good balance, so now let's get moving on and start talking about the game's controls. I think they do control pretty good. So the button layout is very easy, you know, moving around, jumping, attacking. And like I said earlier, if you hold up while attacking in the air, you get to swing your weapon around while it gets to shoot out a projectile weapon. Now while you're swinging on the grappling hook, if you hold up and attack, you'll be able to jump a little higher to be able to jump onto your next platform. So it's very easy to figure out, and the response times are really good, even though I do find that using the grappling hook did take some adjustment too, but other than that, everything else worked really well. And the jumping feels pretty good too, so thankfully you don't have that weird, like, awkward jump where if you make a jump you have to commit to it. So for the overall controls, I do find them to be really good. I was actually surprised how good they were. So now let's get moving on to the other things, like the graphics. And as again, I do find them to be really good in this game. So as you can tell, the game is very bright and colorful, there's a lot of like really nice backgrounds, and of course I also really like the way how the character sprites look. And the game's cutscenes also do look really nice. Now even though there isn't a whole lot of animation going on, at least the pictures that are shown within the cutscenes do at least look nice. And you can obviously tell that it's a 90s anime style, which I always do really like. So now, as for the game's music, I think it's pretty decent for the most part. So the music throughout most of the levels always do fit the theme that they are, which is always really good, but I don't find them to be like crazy catchy or just really memorable. Well, there's a couple exceptions, but for the most part though, it's a pretty decent soundtrack. but probably my favorite song throughout the entire game would have to be the one that plays during the title screen. Man, that one is just really fucking awesome. So they did get that nailed down, but the OST overall is good, but I wouldn't say it's great or amazing like many other PC Engine CD soundtracks that I've heard. So with that said, it's good, and it does fit the setting of it, but I don't think it's as good as, I don't know, let's say like the Valis games on PC Engine CD, or even the Ys games, or anything like that. Now as for the game's voice acting, well, this one is only in Japanese, of course, since the game is only released in Japan. But the only thing I can say about it that I thought was interesting is that the main character is actually being played by Ryo Natsuki. In case you're unfamiliar, she actually did the Japanese voice for Lulu in Final Fantasy X, so that's pretty cool. And that's the random trivia I have about the voice acting, because I can't judge the quality of it for it actually being good or bad. So now, if you wanted to go out and buy this game, if you happen to have a Turbo CD, you can actually play this game because they are region free. And unfortunately, although this doesn't come as a surprise at all, is that the game is not cheap at all. So I've seen a couple of them going for a little over $150, and there's quite a few of them going for about $200, so yeah, no thanks. But in case you don't want to deal with that, which I can totally understand, there is other options out there, and two good emulators I'll recommend are Turbo Engine and Mednafen, I believe that's how it's pronounced. So as for my overall thoughts on Faucet Armor, is that I actually like this one a lot more than I thought I would. Now, I remember about a year ago, I messed around with this game a little bit, and I did like what I played, but I couldn't even beat the first level, so I thought it was just going to be one of those impossible games, considering that it does remind me a little bit of Ghosts and Goblins. But as I was playing through it more and more, I actually got a lot better at it, and the game is very fair, and I did find it to be a lot more fun. Because yes, the game is challenging and does have a few hard parts, but I never felt frustrated at any of the parts in the game that were hard. But as fun as I did have with this game, I'm pretty sure there is going to be a few people out there that would disregard this game for the fact that it looks very weeb trash, which I can understand. But as you know me, that kind of thing doesn't really bother me, because all I want is a game that plays good, feels good, and is just really fun and enjoyable, and that's pretty much how I felt with this game. So if you do want something that is challenging but yet is actually possible to beat, then I would recommend G-Strings and Undergarments, or I mean Faucet Armor. Well, I think the other name is better, but anyways though, that'll be the end of this review, so thanks for watching, commenting, and have yourselves a great day.